So let me recap the morning for you. So I woke up as per usual. Phenomenal. And then I had a neighbor reach out and be like, yo, I want to run this idea by you. And I was like, all right, sure. So we run through this idea and great, phenomenal, love it. And then immediately after, have to go and hang out with an old high school buddy for sushi. And I'm somebody who, generally speaking, loves just staying online, talking with you guys, hanging out. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it was interesting, like the human connection, the element around that. And I'm still going to make the argument that I always do, is I really, really think that we need to have something within the Web3 crypto NFT landscape that brings people back together. Everybody's still just maxis of whatever. And when we look at different things that are happening within ecosystems, and I had another friend that sent me a message this morning talking about certain happenings within the space, and nobody cares about anything. Right. And that might seem like sort of bold, but you'll find people when you scroll on the timeline that certain collections, we'll use Pudgy penguins as an example. If you look at posts from anyone that's within that ecosystem, everybody's super positive, right? You know, speaking of positivity, there's Harry Swan. Hey, yo, what's going on there, Malachi? And then you go to like some other collections that it's maybe not like as hyped up or happy around there. And then maybe more complaining around certain things haven't transpired quicker. And I just think people want a positive space to hang out with. Notice the Discords you used to hang out in aren't as vibey as they once were for a lot of these collections. Why is that? Is it because the team or whatever they're building is no longer as active or interesting for the majority of people? Is there nothing else to talk about? There's no common ground that can get introduced between people. I mean, this is me just friggin' yapping. I understand that. I understand that. But what is going to bring everybody back together? And I don't have the answer for that. So I'm bringing a problem without a solution, which is something that you should never do. But how the hell can we get everybody back on the same page in one element or another? Because when you look across the space, again, everybody's interested in whatever they're specifically interested in. And again, something happens, we're excited for a day, and then again, let's move on to the next thing. But how do we bring everyone together? That is the question you have to think about as we continue on with today's stream. Thank you so much for coming on. And my name is Ashiller. This is XSpeed. Last bull market, people were buying land in the metaverse for more than the price of land in New York. You are not bullish enough, anon. So let's pause and ponder this thought for uno momento, por favor. One, this is a factual statement. Whether the sales were wash sales, obviously there's probably a couple of them, but I think there was a genuine thought that these online ecosystems were going to change the world. And wow, look, we're at a point where that is starting to really seep through, maybe with a little bit of stigma here and there, but this was absolutely the case. Yesterday, we had some news out of the US, and Canada with the rate cuts. And today the markets are looking fairly green. And everybody has just said there's no liquidity. This doesn't even feel like a bull run. This is all awful. We forget the North Star of things. We forget it every single day. Last night, a little bullish headline, the SEC approves generic ETF listing standards, clearing path for digital asset listings without individual approval. So remember the other day we were talking about the avatar standards that were just created amongst a conglomerate of individuals? Well, what about standards for ETF listings? What is that going to end up doing for this space? Everything needs to have a standard. From Foggy, I have read this announcement a few times, trying to visualize every possible scenario and use case, and this is about the Punk strategy token. If you're not really familiar with it, the too long didn't read, there was a token that was created and it has a sales tax. So anytime somebody buys or sells it, a percent of that token ends up going towards purchasing a Punk, and then that Punk gets repriced higher. If the floor of CryptoPunks goes up, well, then that sells, and then part of it's used, or all of it, something along those lines, is used to buy back that token. And so token buybacks are a huge thing here in late 2025. I don't think it was talked about that much earlier in the year, but it feels like now that's like the be all and the end all. We'll use some other examples here in a second, but let's continue. The bottom line is NFT golden bull run starts tomorrow, and Punk strategy is going to billions. First meme community token with full Web3 culture tokenomics, billions. So at the end of the stream, we talked about how they started with doing CryptoPunks, and then today they are launching that same sort of token for every single NFT collection if they are wanting to, which could be very interesting because you also have to remember these tokens come out and people, put whatever they want into it. And well, what if they end up selling? And that's kind of the point, that even on the way down, as sells happen, that percents of each of those transfers end up going to this pool that accumulates more. And it's this kind of very interesting mechanism that if the NFT floors end up going up at all and these things sell, there is a hefty token buyback. DGMD regarding the token works is what I guess it's called for not just the Punk strategy, but all the different ones, is like Pump.fun for NFT associated tokens, except all the fees go straight back into the NFT collections they support instead of into pockets of insiders and rug devs. Recycled liquidity, proper attention flywheels, additive, not extractive to the ecosystem. So the comparison here is to Pump.fun, which is a site where you can go, you can stream, create random meme coins, and there's hundreds of thousands of them created every day. And I've kind of always been the person that has gravitated towards, hey, I do like the quote unquote utility tokens because it sort of makes sense if we're going to have all these protocols and networks that are supposedly going to change the world. I'd rather have exposure to that versus some kind of thing that's hot for like a day and then potentially forgotten about, which meme coins have done very, very well. But it's interesting that like this is, all the liquidity within meme coins. What happens if this ends up doing quite well within the utility space and kind of driving that narrative that, hey, this is the next run of tokens that you should be paying attention to. So Camel here, saying creator capital markets trend won't last for a week. If you're feeling the urge to launch, don't. Your personal brand is worth more than a few $100. Remember, only a few people are pulling more than 5,000. Do you really want this to follow you forever? Because your other option is a bunch of bag holders funding you to stream 24/7 and do more and more crazy shiza. So let's pause for a second. There's a lot going on here. So we talk about creator capital markets. This is sort of the trend where I just said, hey, I think, these utility, in quote, tokens are going to potentially get a little bit more attention. But the creator economy and tokens from creators are kind of like the hot narrative for a little bit here. Now, what I would maybe push back on this, and I did a huge breakdown yesterday from Tarzan, Yamato's death. If you're a League of Legends fan or watch any of the streamers, Yamato's death is someone who launched a meme coin streaming on Pump.fun and has gotten rinsed on the timeline, deactivated all socials, biggest meme ever. And I think that there is a huge caveat to all of it. So let me reread the middle line here. If you're feeling the urge to launch, don't. Your personal brand is worth more than a few $100. Remember, only a few people are pulling more than 5,000. All right. So not to repeat myself, but yesterday I made the argument that if you are on Pump.fun, you know exactly what you are signing up for. And if you're somebody that goes on that platform, it does not, and I repeat, it does not mean your average viewer is going to go on Pump.fun, be like, oh, look, this is a cool, fun crypto thing of my favorite streamer. Let me go put my life savings into this. That is stupid, immature, and there is no way that that is like a serious thing outside of maybe a small percent. Sure, I could be wrong with that take, but I'd like to think that people are a little bit more mature and people don't want to touch crypto in the first place, that I feel like is a certain age demographic. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're seeing where the younger generations are literally all in on crypto, so it's irrelevant. And the thought that I have of the stigma of older people, and in the conversation this morning, the neighbor was pitching to me NFTs, and I'm like, okay, listen, I do a daily live. I do a daily live stream about NFTs. We do a once a week podcast about NFTs. I've basically dedicated my life to covering it. However, you're trying to do this merchandise and whatnot. I don't know if highlighting, hey, we want to do NFTs and all that kind of sort of things makes sense for your typical audience, because for me, he was explaining that it was a little bit older individuals and whatnot. And I was like, okay, like that's cool. And so probably don't even bring that up. And so I could see where I might be wrong with these things. But if you're going to stream on Pump.fun, you just know that all right, there might be a couple people to buy this. Okay, cool. Sure, we're going to stream more, but do you have like the mental capacity to just ignore people that are screaming at you to stream 24/7? Like, I want to give the benefit of the doubt that people aren't just outright stupid, but maybe that's wrong. Because I think for people that are aware of some sort, like, personal brand getting affected for what? You're jumping on a platform during like this meme coin thing that everyone is talking about, Pump.fun. You make a little bit of money on it. If people want to speculate, they're adults, let them do that. Like, I don't get what the negativity is. Personally, I probably wouldn't do any sort of like Pump.fun stream. Doesn't really make sense. I don't know why I would try to push an audience over there. It's not really my cup of tea. It doesn't make any sense. Or have panels. Yo, JO3, what's going on? Hell yeah. I don't know. So there's all this conversation, right, around this creator economy. That's great, right? Like, as a creator, this is awesome. And it's funny because there's a lot of conversation that's also happening of, isn't it funny how creators are making funny of what other people are making money on when they want to make money off creating? And it's like, what you're saying is not apping. What do you mean by that? I need you to spread that out, or not spread that out, spell that out a little bit more for me, JO3. Can we creators not try to scam our audience if we don't feel like making content anymore? Like, imagine you're leaving your job and after all the support you've gotten over the years, you decide as a final thank you to squeeze some money out of your fans. Let's not make this the norm. So back to the stream yesterday. This is like the Yamato death person. I don't know who Bobkin is. I feel like I feel like there's probably other leak streamer. I'm just going to assume because both of these are here, right? But I mean, again, if you were somebody who is streaming League of Legends and all of a sudden you're going to do a stream on a crypto platform, how many people are actually going to follow you and then actually going to put money into that? I don't get it. Maybe you might get like-minded peeps saying the same. I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. So here's an example of like what the numbers actually look like. So several key opinion leaders launched their own token with the hype of Pump.fun streaming. Here's how much they made. So going down the list, somebody made 30,000, somebody made 15,000. And again, like, that's a lot of money. Alex Becker made almost $400,000. Jesus Murphy. Gainsey, 144,000. No kidding. These people are wanting to go and do this. Look how much that they're pulling in. Phenomenal. Like, I mean, if people are wanting to go buy creator tokens, I mean, let them. I don't know why we're like deciding what other people are going to do with their money and then somehow lambasting them on the timeline. Maybe it's the fact that like nobody has a backbone and can be like, hey, you know what? We went over here. We wanted to do this. And then now everybody's like crucifying me for it. Like, who the hell cares? Like, get with it. Jesus. Never forget, 3 years later, Bored Ape Yacht Club is still the best engagement rage bait ever. So there's some person that was like, 3 years ago, people were justified in paying over 3 years ago, people were justifying paying over $2 million for a JPEG of an ape. Wait a minute. Apparently someone just paid $2.35 million for a Bored Ape NFT on August 2nd. Who the F is still buying NFTs? So, number one, the dollar price is insane. Absolutely. Absolutely. Insanity. But NFTs are a lot more than what people are begging the question from. And yesterday, remember, the National Hockey League, they have digital moments. It's exactly the same as going to Walmart and buying a pack of cards, except you log into a site and you can do it there. Buy, sell, trade, what the hell ever. Usually has a video attached. Phenomenal. The National Basketball Association, they do it. Major League Soccer does it. We can go down the list and we are having these massive, massive brands that are doing something within the digital landscape. But everybody just says NFTs as if it's like some horrific thing. And it drives me nuts. And I try to listen. I try to like always be on both sides of the fence and look at it from every perspective. But these things, listen, we're going to have to change the narrative, the way that people talk about these things. Fight back a little bit. If your friend says something stupid about it, be like, listen, hold on a second there, bucko. Let me try to educate, because you're right. There are certain things that absolutely make no sense. But the concept is that these are digital collectibles. That's it. It's a way of proving ownership. Phenomenal. Capiche? Capiche. Moon Overlord. Feels like absolutely nothing has happened in crypto this year. I feel like there's not a lot that's happened that people really care about. We started the year, and if you want to go back, if you're on YouTube and you go to the live stream section on the channel, and you just, on the mouse button, how you can like press the button and it makes your wheel like be a lot more flimsy, and you could just like spin it and it'll go like 100 miles an hour. I want you to do that. And I want you to go back to the beginning of this year. And you'll find certain headlines and things you've probably completely forgotten about it. And the main one that I'm thinking off the top of my head is where basically the administration in the US has said, we're making everything about crypto. Crypto, crypto, crypto. This is the golden age. It's amazing. And then we progress throughout the year and we've had certain protocols that have launched. I might be speaking out of turn, but I feel like Hyperliquid happened earlier in the year, or at least it got like a lot of traction. I don't know if it actually launched this year, but I feel like that was a big component. You're having more and more upticks of stuff that was successful. Disney Pinnacle, it's not the first year it's around, but they've opened it up and suddenly it's, absolutely exploded in attention to ban everything under the sun. And there's been the huge drop of the legal fights, the likes of Ripple, a whole bunch of NFT collections from CyberKongz. Did anything ever happen with Yuga Labs, by the way? I feel like they had some kind of thing with the SEC at one point. I don't know if that got taken care of. Anyway, there was a huge deregulation, or at least not as much enforcement, if you will. And so there's been a lot of happenings of sort, but there's not a lot of stuff that you and I look at each other and say, that was an absolutely amazing event. Man, I have so much fun playing this game. I mean, for Cambria and like season 2, I really enjoyed that. But arguably, there's not that many things that you probably feel extraordinarily passionate about. Is that fair to say? So stuff has happened, but has it gotten people out of bed, for lack of a better way? Well, then you remember, okay, well, we do have a lot of tokens that are now getting like ETFs you wouldn't even think would be. Remember Pengu? Pudgy Penguins and Pengu token were just featured in the Q2 bullish a New York Stock Exchange earnings report and call. Take a look at these slides that were just shown to all of Wall Street. Institutions will huddle. So I need you to play like a little bit of a game with me, all right? We're live stream games. So I want you to sit there and imagine that you are wearing a suit, wearing business attire, whatever it may be, whatever you fancy, all right? And you're sitting at a big round table like we're at Camelot, okay? And I'm coming in, I'm wearing the exact same suit. You and I are matching or whatever the hell we decide to wear that day. And you have to sit there and you don't really know much about crypto or NFTs, but then they bring up this slide to you, okay? Remember, imagination. You're sitting there and you got money and you're figuring out what to do, okay? Here's a pitch. Powering our partners' growth, Igloo Inc., Pudgy Penguins, and the Pengu token. Onboarding users to crypto through IP and real-world experiences. Pudgy Penguins is onboarding the next generation of crypto users through retail-friendly products, video games, digital content, and partnerships with high-profile brands such as Sotheby's, NASCAR, and Pez, the Pez dispenser. 2 million plus Pudgy Penguins sold across 10,000 global retailers, including Walmart and Target. The toys include a scannable QR code to create a Web3 wallet with an NFT, which can be used in Pudgy Penguins' interactive online and mobile gaming experiences. 750,000 downloads of Pudgy Party mobile game, which features an in-game blockchain-based marketplace for skins and other digital assets. Scale distribution, 220 billion impressions with 800 million daily impressions, 5 million social media followers, and more Giphy impressions than Pokemon, Hello Kitty, and Star Wars. The mascot of crypto. The Pudgy Penguins profile picture has become a crypto phenomenon and used by Solana, VanEck, Bitwise, Tom Lee, Mike Novogratz, Coinbase, and many other prominent crypto companies and personalities. Pengu inclusion in CoinDesk 800, CoinDesk 100, and CoinDesk meme indices. Listen, it goes on here, and there's a whole lot more, and they got more Pengu listed, this and that. But remember at a point, right, when they're saying nothing happened in crypto this year, remember when every single Web3 related company, well, caveat, a large majority of them switched over to a profile picture of a Pudgy Penguin. Like that was a thing. That was like a social movement at a point because that was a hot thing to do for attention. And then we have all these ETFs that are now supposedly coming out for various tokens, including newer ones like Pengu. And you're sitting there at this table and you're hearing all these things. Like, what's your reaction? Do you look at that and say, that's cool, whatever? And you might. Or or say, hey, you know, there's this world over there that seems like a lot's going on. Maybe I don't understand it right now, but maybe I should go home and look at it. These are the perspectives and things that we're going to see every single day. And the first impression and the perspectives are something that's absolutely vital, and I don't know how much more I could stress that. Maybe there's somebody out here that you're watching the stream for the first time and you think that I'm an absolute donkey. True. Or you could say, hey, you know what? Like, this is kind of a vibe. Maybe I want to hang out here often. And if you do, love it. But Chrono Forge is a Web3 game, and Vert here is saying people say that gaming creators don't play games. So I decided to spend 1 hour playing the most hyped up Web3 game so far, Chrono Forge, and man, is our space down bad if this is the best gaming has to offer. Okay, so we're not going to watch this entire clip, obviously, but I'm going to play it for like a minute or two and see kind of like just what the first impression is. Because I can sit here and be like, all right, so Vert says that they don't really like it. I'm indifferent. I've seen some things regarding Chrono Forge and Readyverse, and I'm like, you know, I'm open to it. And maybe this game just isn't for them, which we'll get to a follow-up from one of the developers. But again, let's watch 60 seconds, 2 minutes of this and see what we think.
Yo, it's Verted here, and I played Chrono Forge, which is supposed to be the best Web3 game. So here I will just walk you through what I did and how fucking bad it was. Okay, so it took me like 10 minutes, I think, to create an account and a character. A shit ton of time. And like the loading screens were long as hell. Okay, then we spawn in.
I feel like this guy immediately is just like saying this is the worst thing ever. I hate everything, and just like negative. Like there's not even like an ounce of like, hey, you know what? This was okay.
World of freedom, exploration and fun. We talk with a guy. Then we just run around. Talk with another guy. Yeah, that's cool, man. Okay, then there was a bug where the bug just didn't die.
The bug didn't die, okay.
Then I fell, and then I was swimming in the air. That's like the second bug. Then
okay. Okay. Oh my god. So I went from like, oh, man, this guy's like way too negative to like seeing the gameplay and be like, maybe this is like minorly justified. So clearly there's like some issues with this, but for argument's sake, right, and why I keep also trying to say, hey, yo, if you want to do content creation of anything, like think of how few creators are doing anything on these different games. Like, I think this is one of the first pieces of content I've seen on my timeline. Do I even follow this guy? Oh yeah, I do. Okay, cool. So I follow this person, and this is like the first time I've seen like gameplay of Chrono Forge when I'm somebody who watches Readyverse, Futureverse, all that kind of stuff. And it was supposed to be one of the first games on Readyverse. And so there's just like not content that exists out there or something like this. So the world is your oyster if you just kind of put in the effort. So the dev responded to this saying, hey, lead blockchain here for Chrono Forge. Lead blockchain dev, I guess. With all due respect, it feels like this game is just not for you. It is a slower paced game in the overworld, learning about the world, the lore and completing quests, which are part of the typical MMO experience. The starting quest that you miss, which gives you a mount to be able to move around faster, would have solved your problems with walking and rolling around everywhere. We've been making this more clear to players. Thank you for pointing this out. So again, very, very cool. Does make a huge difference when they're saying, hey, there was supposed to be like a mount where you're not having to fast forward the video and walk everywhere and kind of have that kind of negative first impression. But again, first impression is huge. And so as an outsider, I'm like, all right, they've responded to this. They didn't just complain and say, hey, like, you suck, your review's bad. We did this wrong. I don't think the game's for you. And like, here's a couple of other rational reasons in having a discourse. And that's, I think that's cool. PayPal has 25-year history of banning people's accounts for arbitrary BS reasons. And then people are saying, yeah, let's use the PayPal stablecoin. That's going to be a good idea. I mean, brand matters to a point, but with everybody doing a stablecoin, I'm trying to think of like why the hell I would ever use a PayPal stablecoin unless I need to PayPal somebody money, which I don't think I've used PayPal in like 4 years, if not more. I think the earliest memory I have of PayPal, now thinking about it, I think you could purchase like RuneScape memberships with it. And I thought, hey, let me try it out. I think it was the last time I did. So CyberKongz, we talked earlier in the stream about how everybody's doing a token burn buyback, like the more of the token buyback. But is this the realm that we are going to say similarly to anything that was related to Animoca brands like 2 years ago, it mooned, right? Now, is any coin with a buyback associated with it something that people are going to want to speculate on? From CyberKongz, CyberKongz have bought a total of 2.6 million Kong token at an average price of $0.01. This was done using a percent of funds generated across our revenue verticals over the past 12 months, ranging from on-chain gaming to validator rewards. So these different ecosystems, what are they going to offer across the line? And is this something that people want to jump into more so with saying, hey, there's going to end up being some sort of demand for token? Because, and at the beginning of the stream, we talked about how everybody is interested in whatever they're interested in. The people that are interested in Kong token are not going to be interested in a whole bunch of other random tokens, right? And vice versa. So you're either still pulling from the exact same pool of people that are potentially tapped out of funds, or you need to have these revenue models or new blood, if you will, coming in to help stimulate the economy. I believe this was yesterday. It was maybe the day before, but somebody from Pixels Online, Luke, made a comment. We did a whole breakdown. I'll repeat it just to catch up with what we're going to talk about now. So moving chains or going multi-chain won't get you more users. The issue is there are not enough paying users on any chain. The most successful Web3 native games last year did not make any meaningful revenue. So Or responded saying, it's not a game problem, it's a network problem. We are very early. We are ahead of our time. We build it without any guarantee of success because we love it. And I'm trying to remember what exactly I said regarding this Luke take, but I do very much agree in the aspect of like just simply we're early. Like there's all these things that are like stupid lame, and I try to like overemphasize that I understand that there is like the stigma and the negativity around crypto, because like I think that that is something you need to be aware about, that like by default people have a negative connotation because of the likes of what's happened with like Yamato, who's somebody that was streaming League of Legends, has no idea what he's doing, incredibly immature as just a human in general, no disrespect intended from it, but watching his live streams you can tell that, and like the way that he's interacted with other people, have watched tournaments and everything else, like just not that emotionally intelligent or able to handle a situation like that, where it is potentially, all right, that guy just wanted to go in there and see if he could rinse his audience and then leave, right? It comes back and says, hey guys, like, yeah, I'm going to be streaming every single day on this platform. I'm needing to come up with some other revenue models because this isn't working the way that it is. If you want to support me and my content, this is kind of like what it's going to be. Okay, boom. Great. But not emotionally mature to be able to say that, right? So I do think that it's just simply a we're early aspect. OniForce, just a reminder, this is what OniForce looks like as characters, all right? This is the founder of it, or the CEO, Star-Lordy. The thing about Japan is you're either in or you're out. Personal relationships are everything everywhere. The biggest names try and still can't break through. Investing in Japan since 2023 is about to pay off for OniForce in 2026. All roads will lead to the OG anime. Now, I haven't really seen this individual on the timeline at all or anything regarding OniForce in quite some time, but all right, I need to be paying attention to Japan, and maybe something is going to be happening with OniForce. Love to see it. Final thing I'm going to leave you with. Listen, last hour is not that great, but 24 hours of about 1.5% of Bitcoin, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 7, 7, 16, 10, 4, 7, 6, 4. All these greenness. It's up. It's going up. What does it look like? What happens on this weekend? Do we finally see the Sunday night shenanigans again? Remember, we had like a 3 or 4 week stretch where every Sunday night, the market just went crazy green for no reason whatsoever. But is this weekend a little bit different? And the Harry Swan went in and bought some Aster today. It is up. It is up 167% today. Mr. Harry Swan, attaboy, love to see it. Go get yourself a brand new pack of Pokemon cards. Hell yeah. That's going to be it for this edition of XFeed. Thank you guys so much for coming on through. Just a reminder as well, if you check out the link in the description below, or if you're following on X, the link in the bio, the RWA SegMints Podcast, we have some of the craziest minds that exist within the Web3 space, and you get to hear about their story that you're probably not going to find elsewhere, because you need to find those stories, and you got to educate yourself and then be like, hey, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, there is something kind of interesting here in the Web3 world where a lot of people are pushing against it. You can be the one that is kind of rowing up river. It's a little bit different. All right, thanks so much for tuning on in. JO3, Harry Swan, you guys are the best. See you tomorrow. Peace.